So the first question is about you. So on your YouTube channel, you publish that you have four hats of working with startups, of being a speaker, a content creator, and working with multinationals. So what is it that unites all of those work streams, and what is your superpower that drives them?
Honestly, you might say it's cliche, but my passion for technology is as authentic and as deep as you can imagine, right? I mean, I think today most people love technology. Everyone loves technology today, but my passion for technology started well before it was cool to love tech. And really, when I write about tech, I don't feel like it's a task. I don't feel like it's a burden. It's what I love to do because I love tech. And so when I work with startups and help them grow, it's because I want to get their tech in the hands of consumers. And when I write about tech, it's because I love tech. And when I work with enterprises, it's because I love working with cool tech companies. And when I, do speaking about tech, it's because it's such a deep passion. And I think that that's actually what makes me successful as a speaker is because when you see me speak, my passion, you can't mistake it. It's so obvious. And so I think that that's probably the common thread. It's just a deep, deep passion, authentic passion for technology.
Okay, thanks. And what's been your most favorite, I don't know, the project or activity so far? What is that like of all the tech and all the project that you've been doing, what is that really gave you the most energy?
Well, I think that, when I promote Israeli tech, I am promoting tech, but really what I'm promoting is Israel, right? I've kind of positioned myself as that guy who, is the Israeli tech guy. But it's interesting because again, really deep down under the surface, it was always about promoting Israel. And that was very clear to those who followed me uh, previously, prior to the war. But after the war, that kind of became a little more obvious, right? So now I'm more focused on Israel, just straight up, defending Israel online. So I think that this is for me, in a very real way, the kind of project of my lifetime. I feel very, very fulfilled. I see the results; they're incredible, and so I think that everything I've done, I would have to say that my work now with Israel and the war is my most meaningful and what gives me the most energy.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Last time we talked, I told you that I work with teams, and I truly believe that team is a drive organization. And I like if you have a great team, like leaders are not that important as great teams. And from what I see,
Right.
VCs and investors are saying is that like the most important thing about startup is its team.
Right.
So first of all, like, do you agree? And if you do, like, how do you define a great team? Like, how do you know that, okay, here's a startup. How do you know the team is great?
That's a great question. I don't know if that there's a right answer. There's no scientific answer here, at least, but I do think that, technology can be copied, right? I mean, you can copy someone's technology. You can copy many things. You can't copy people. You can't copy talent. And so, I spoke to an investor one time who was the first investor in Uber. And he told me that, he met the CEO and founder of Uber, Travis, and he came into his office after, hundreds of VCs said no to him. And they said no to him because in order for Uber to work, they have to change laws and regulations, right? And the union, and it's a whole huge mess. And they all said it's just too big of a headache. And this guy told me that he saw Travis, he looked in his eyes and he realized if anybody can do it, this guy can do it, right? And so it's hard to quantify or to define, but when you see talent, you know it, right? And when I want to differentiate between talent and skills, skill can be acquired. You can learn how to code. You can learn how to use Twitter. Talent is something that you have or you don't have. And I think that's a really important point. And I think that, we're seeing the difference maybe manifest in the world of recruiting. I think more and more CEOs and leaders are trying to recruit people who are talented versus people who have very specific skills.
And still, you're saying like there's one guy who can change the world. It's not so much about team, but it's about the leader. So like, what do you think is more important? Is it the leader who is leading, or is it like the people who support him and him or her?
I think it's actually a mixture. I think I once heard a quote that I really, really loved, and that is that someone said, when I talk to managers, I feel like they are important. But when I speak to leaders, I feel like I am important, right? Because good leaders empower those around him or her, right? And I think that, a good leader has people around them that can support their leadership, can, implement their leadership, can execute on their leadership. So I think it's actually a combination of both, because if you have a leader without people to lead and without those around him who are empowered, then I think that the leader will be less effective. And if you have an amazing group of people, but not a leader who can lead them in the right direction, then it also won't be effective.
Mm-hmm. And speaking about leadership, like you're a thought leader in media space. You're a business leader and you work with business leaders. How is it being a thought leader and a business leader the same or different for you?
Say the question again?
I'm saying you're a thought leader in a media space and you're a business leader, like leading business.
Yeah, I don't differentiate between those two things. I don't know. The word thought leader is just a new concept. I don't, I think I say this to companies all the time, right? I think that in order to lead in business, you have to lead in branding. You have to lead in your space, be a leader in the space, be an authority in the space, right? And that's why, by the way, content marketing is so important, because you can't position your company as a leader in the space by just talking about yourself all day long. Nobody cares. But if you, for example, produce content about the industry, right, whether it's trends and news and interviews and all the things, then you position yourself as a leader on the branding side and you're perceived as a leader, and then you end up becoming a business leader. So I think those two things complement each other perfectly.
I'm now working on my next article for Forbes Coaches Council about why CEOs fail. So again, when you work with CEOs of startup CEOs or company CEOs, what is the most important thing they need to keep in focus when they're starting a new role as a CEO or transitioning into a role of a CEO?
I think it's really not much different than, let's say, a politician, right? Oftentimes politicians have egos and they think that they're above, their constituents. What they don't realize is that no, it's the opposite. They are supposed to serve. And if it's anything that, they report to their constituents, they report to the company, not the other way around. And so, this is true, by the way, even in, let's say, businesses, like in a store, right? They say the customer is always right. It's important to understand that if you walk into a store, the store owner is serving you, not the other way around. So a leader has to have the humility to know who reports to who, and to lead the people out of humility and not out of ego. And I think that ego is the most destructive thing when it comes to leaders. And I think it's unfortunately something that's way too common.
Mm-hmm. So that leads to my kind of final question. What would be your advice to the aspiring leaders who want to lead with their values, but there is still a very competitive market that they need to?
What advice would I give them, you're asking?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that, many entrepreneurs who have an idea, like they want to run with the idea because they're very excited about it. They're very passionate about it. They think they're going to change the world, as they should. They should be excited and they should believe that they're going to change the world. But one of the things that, too many entrepreneurs skip are the foundations, are the things that you can't skip over if you're going to build a company. For example, market research, right? If you think you have the most amazing idea, maybe you do, but it also could be that someone did it before you and maybe they failed and you need to know why they failed, or maybe they succeeded and you need to now figure out, are you going to do the exact same thing as them, or are you going to pivot? But without doing a market research or competitive analysis, your idea has no legs because you don't even know what you're up against. And so that's just one example of something that many entrepreneurs like to skip over because it's not as fun, it's not as sexy, but it might be the most important thing you do as you build this company, is to know your market. So there are many things like over the course, the life cycle of a company that are less flashy, less exciting, but without them, you're missing the fundamentals and you're building a building that has no foundations and it's going to come crumbling down. So, yes, do the things that are exciting, get the press, get the money, get the investor. Yeah, this stuff is all important, but without the foundations, it's going to come crumbling down. So always make sure that as an entrepreneur, you're not skipping over the things that are not necessarily as fun as the shiny, but are incredibly important. That, I think, is something that many entrepreneurs make a mistake about, and they skip over those parts.
Well, thanks so much, Hillel. I'm out of my questions. Is there anything I haven't asked you, but you want to share or say?
No, I just think that, the world of tech is, undergoing a massive transition. I just finished a meeting, my last meeting with NVIDIA, a company that, people never even knew 5 years ago and is now the third most valuable company in the world. I mean, it's just a wild thing. And what facilitated that, what made NVIDIA so successful is AI, which is something that, we all heard of, but has taken such a leap forward in the last couple of years. And so I think people, some people are scared of AI. I think what's important to understand is that AI is not going to replace human beings. Human beings who use AI are going to replace humans who don't use AI. And so as a leader, it's extremely important that you pay attention to what's happening in the market. And, I always give the example of BlackBerry, right? Anybody who's ever had a BlackBerry loved their BlackBerry. Everyone loved their BlackBerry. And yet BlackBerry is extinct. And that's because they didn't pay attention to the market. A good product is not good enough, right? They had a great product, but they weren't paying attention to where the market was going. And the market was going towards an ecosystem, towards app stores, towards developers, not just a phone. They just didn't pay. They just ignored that trend, and then that's why they went extinct and they're gone. So I think as a leader, you need to be on top of what's happening in your market and not live in a little sheltered bubble where you're just paying attention to your company and not to what's happening around you. I think that that's part of what makes a good leader, is focusing, yes, on their own internal growth as a company, while staying on top of what's going on in the market and being willing to change, being willing to pivot when necessary.
Cool. Thank you so much. It was great.
All right. Thank you so much for interviewing me. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right,
send
take
you
care.
what I have. Take care.